Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving deep into the massive world of B2B e-commerce for manufacturers. It's an industry that's right in the middle of a gigantic transformation. But you know what? A lot of companies are getting left behind. So we're going to figure out why they're struggling so much to bridge that digital gap.
All right, let's just kick things off with a number that sets the scene. By 2026, the global B2B e-commerce market, it's projected to hit a mind-blowing $3.6 trillion US. That's not just a little bit of growth, that's an economic earthquake.
So here's the huge paradox, right? With a market that massive, with that much money on the table, why are so many manufacturers finding it so hard to keep up? Let's get into it and unravel that mystery.
To really understand the problem, you've got to start with the cause. So let's jump right into our first section, the B2B e-commerce shift. Wow. Okay, this one statistic pretty much says it all. A whopping 73% of B2B buyers now prefer to buy online instead of talking to a salesperson. Think about that. This isn't just some small trend. It's a fundamental flip in how business has been done for decades. So if the buyers are ready and waiting, what's holding the manufacturers back? Well, that brings us to section 2, where we're going to look at the 5 big headaches that they're dealing with.
First up, we've got headache number 1, the absolute beast that is complex B2B sales cycles and customer management. And let me tell you, this is not your typical add-to-cart situation.
You know, unlike just buying something online for yourself, B2B sales involve a whole bunch of different decision makers, crazy long internal approval processes, and data that's just scattered all over the place. And those old legacy CRM systems, they just can't keep up, making everything feel slow and clunky. And that brings us to headache number 2, the tangled, complicated web of inventory, supply chain, and pricing.
So we're talking about unpredictable demand for huge bulk orders, which can mess everything up and lead to stockouts or way too much inventory. And pricing? Oh, it's not simple. It's this complex matrix of different pricing tiers for different customers, negotiated contracts. Trying to manage all that by hand, it's just a recipe for disaster and lost money.
And all that complexity, it creates our third headache, integration nightmares and the thing everyone dreads, data silos.
And the scale of this problem is just staggering. A full 67%, 2/3 of B2B companies say system compatibility is one of their top challenges. I mean, when your main systems, your ERP, your CRM, your PIM, can't even talk to each other, you end up with a digital mess that wastes an incredible amount of time and energy. But you know what? It's not just about the tech. Headache number 4 is all about the people. It's digital transformation resistance.
So many organizations are still completely dependent on old-school manual ordering. We're talking spreadsheets, fax machines, and phone calls. There's a real fear of messing up the sales channels that have always worked, and the internal processes are just so rigid that any kind of change feels totally impossible. And finally, the 5th, and maybe the most pressing headache of them all, the constantly rising expectations of today's buyers. See, the modern B2B buyer, who's often a millennial, expects the same easy, seamless experience they get when they're shopping for themselves. They want self-service portals. They want to do it on their phone. They want to see the prices up front. They want to research and order on their own time. And if you can't give them that, they are absolutely going to find someone who will.
Okay, so that's a whole lot of problems. What's the answer? Well, let's take a look in section 3, a purpose-built solution.
So this is where a lot of companies get it wrong. They try to take a generic, consumer-focused platform and just kind of force it to work for B2B. That means expensive, clunky add-ons. The real solution? It's a B2B-first platform, one that was designed from day one to handle all of this complexity.
And this is where it all clicks. A platform that's actually built for B2B directly solves every single one of those headaches we talked about. For those complex sales cycles, you get self-service portals. For the crazy pricing, you get built-in support for customer-specific price lists. And for those data silos, you get seamless integration with your ERP and CRM. It just works.
But okay, that all sounds great in theory. Does it actually work in the real world? Let's move on to section 4 and see how this tech gets put to work.
Let's look at a real-life example. Braskem, a huge player in the chemical industry. They were dealing with so many of these same problems. So, what'd they do? They built a multi-branch B2B portal to automate everything and give their customers 24/7 access. And the results? They were dramatic.
First off, efficiency. Get this. They saved over 22,000 work hours, not just once, but every single year. And all that new efficiency, it translated directly into happier customers. They saw a 13% jump in customer satisfaction. It just goes to show, a better system on the inside creates a way better experience for the customer on the outside.
So what's the big picture lesson here? What should we all be taking away from this? Well, that brings us to our final section, the future-proof takeaway. This quote from a master B2B research report really just gets to the heart of it all. It says, "Cultural obstacles, not technology, are now the greatest hurdle to digital maturity." Think about that. The tools are here. The tech exists.
Which really leaves us with one last critical question for you to think about. In your own company, is your biggest challenge really the technology, or is it the tradition? Thanks for joining me on this one.